7 months pregnant, Dana stood on the porch with a suitcase she hadn't packed. Marcus wouldn't look at her. "Renee's moving in Friday," he said. "You've got till then." The door clicked shut behind him. She didn't cry. She didn't slam anything. She set the suitcase down long enough to dig out the house key, laid it flat on the porch rail, no note, no goodbye, then got in her car and pulled out of the driveway without checking the window where he stood. Marcus figured that was the end of it. He had no idea that 6 years from now, he'd be sitting across a desk with his own numbers running through someone else's underwriting software. And the woman on the other side of that desk would know exactly what the word declined meant because she'd have built it herself, one file at a time. 3 years before that porch, Dana used to tell herself Renee just needed time. Renee had never approved of the marriage, not out loud, not in any way you could point to and call rude. It showed up smaller than that. A gate code changed on the shared driveway, handed to Dana 2 weeks late with a shrug. A vanilla candle Renee had given the house as a housewarming gift. One nobody was allowed to light because it was for special occasions, except Dana never got a say in what counted as special. Marcus called it nothing. That's just how she is. He said it so often Dana stopped bringing it up. It's fine, she told herself. It's temporary, he'll sort it out eventually. Then Dana got pregnant, and something in the house shifted like a held breath let go wrong. Renee started coming by more. Marcus started staying late at his sister's place to help her sort some things out. The gate code changed twice in 1 month. Nobody handed Dana the new one at all. By the 7th month, boxes were stacked in the garage, not Dana's boxes. Renee's. Dana asked once what they were for. Marcus didn't answer. The Friday it happened, Dana came home from a prenatal appointment to find her side of the closet already emptied onto the bed. Marcus stood in the doorway like he was announcing a schedule change, not ending a marriage. That's when the porch happened. That's when the suitcase, packed, she'd learn later, by Renee, landed at her feet. She spent that first night at a motel off the interstate, staring at a water stain on the ceiling shaped like nothing in particular. $600 in checking. A phone full of numbers for people who'd pick up and a few who wouldn't. 7 months along, and the only plan she had was, don't call him, don't call her either. She didn't call her mother that first night. She waited until morning, sitting on the hood of her car in the motel parking lot, and said only, "Marcus and I are done. I need somewhere to stay for a couple weeks." No details. Her mother didn't ask for any, just gave her an address in Overland Park and said the porch light would be on. By Monday, she'd signed a 6-month lease on a studio above a laundromat across town, cheap enough to cover the deposit, tight enough that she'd be living on rice and canned beans until the baby came. She unpacked 1 box, silverware, 2 pots, a stack of resumes she'd update before the week was out. She spread the classifieds across a card table that first Tuesday, circling anything that didn't require a degree she didn't have or a reference from a life she'd just left. A listing for a loan processing clerk at a mid-size finance firm caught her eye, no experience required, they'd train the right person. She circled it 3 times before she let herself apply, like she was daring herself not to. She didn't know yet which job would take her. She only knew it had to be one that didn't need Marcus Colby's last name attached to make it real. She got the job. Loan processing clerk, entry pay, a cubicle 2 rows back from the window. She showed up her first Monday 8 months along, ankles swollen, and didn't tell anyone why she flinched when the office manager asked for her emergency contact. Nora came in October, 6 pounds, 4 ounces, born on a Tuesday Dana spent alone except for her mother pacing the hallway outside. Marcus sent a text 3 days later. Congrats, nothing else. The child support checks started bouncing by December. Not always, just often enough that Dana learned to wait 2 extra days before she scheduled the rent payment around them. A pickup got missed in February. Marcus was supposed to take Nora for the afternoon so Dana could study, and he just didn't show. Renee's texts, when they came at all, read like invoices. Marcus says he can do the 15th, not the 12th. Let us know, us. Like Renee had a seat on the account. Dana didn't fight any of it out loud. She wrote every bounced check, every missed pickup, every clipped text into a folder she kept in her desk drawer at work, labeled nothing, filed like it was evidence. because eventually she figured everything was. At night, once Nora was down, Dana studied for her loan officer license at the kitchen table, the same card table from the studio, now pushed up against a different wall. She passed on her first try. 6 months later, she processed her first file solo. A year after that, she had a cubicle with a wall of her own and a name plate instead of a name tag. The promotions came the way they do for people who don't ask for shortcuts, slow, then all at once. Loan processor to underwriter. Underwriter to loan officer, a real office now, no window yet, but a door that closed. By year 4, she was running a team, and the door had a window behind it, looking out over the parking lot where she used to circle classified ads on her lunch break. By year 5, the window looked out over the river instead. Senior Vice President, Underwriting, Heartland Ridge Capital, 3rd floor, corner office, her maiden name on the door, D. Ferris. Marcus's 5 years went the other way. He quit his job at the utility company in year 2, steady work, decent benefits, the kind of job that doesn't make headlines but pays a mortgage. Renee had an idea for a specialty renovation business, flipping houses in up-and-coming pockets of the metro, and she needed a partner who could swing a hammer and talk to contractors. Marcus was that partner. Renee put up the capital. Marcus put up the labor, and eventually, his name on the loan paperwork. The first house sold at a loss. The second one sat on the market for 11 months while the carrying costs ate through what was left of the capital. By year 3, Marcus and Renee were both drawing against a line of credit just to keep the lights on at the third property, the one that never got past the studs. Marcus sold his own house, Dana's old house, the one with the driveway gate in year 4, to cover what the business owed. He moved back in with Renee. Neither of them said out loud that it was the same arrangement as before, just with him on the losing end this time. By year 6, the business needed $40,000 in bridge financing to close out the third property before the bank called the note, or the whole thing would collapse and take what was left of both their credit with it. Renee found a lender with flexible terms for small local developers. Marcus filled out the application himself at a library computer because he didn't have one at home anymore. The file landed in underwriting 3 days later, flagged for manual review, the debt-to-income ratio too thin to auto-approve. A senior VP's queue first thing Monday morning. The borrower's name at the top of the file, Marcus Colby. The call came on a Wednesday. A woman with a flat, professional voice, "This is Heartland Ridge Capital, calling about your bridge financing application," asked if Marcus could come in Friday morning to go over a few things with the underwriting team in person. Standard procedure for larger commercial requests, she said. Nothing to worry about. He told Renee it was a good sign. Banks didn't bring you in just to say no over a cup of bad coffee, did they? Renee said she'd come with him. He told her not to. He didn't know why exactly, except that something about walking into a bank building with his sister at his elbow felt like it would look wrong, and after 6 years of things looking wrong, he'd started noticing. Heartland Ridge Capital occupied the top 3 floors of a glass tower downtown, the kind of building where the elevator required a badge tap even to reach the lobby desk. Marcus signed in, clipped on a visitor sticker, and sat in a lobby chair too low and too soft to sit up straight in. He'd worn his one good shirt. It still smelled faintly of the dry cleaning bag. An assistant came down to get him at 9:58, 2 minutes early. "Mr. Colby, this way." She led him through a badge-locked door, past a floor of open cubicles and glass-walled offices, toward the corner of the building where the carpet got thicker and the noise dropped away. He noticed the view first, the river, sunlight flat across the water, a bridge in the distance he half recognized from a drive he used to take to the old house. Then he noticed the nameplate mounted beside the office door they were walking toward, brushed steel, block letters. D. Ferris, Senior Vice President, Underwriting. It didn't mean anything to him. Ferris wasn't a name he knew. He straightened his shirt collar out of habit and told himself this was routine, that plenty of banks made you sit across from somebody with a title before they'd hand over $40,000, that this was just how it worked when you needed money badly enough to ask a stranger for it. The assistant knocked once, opened the door, and stepped aside. "Marcus Colby," she said. "For your 10 o'clock. The woman behind the desk didn't look up right away. She was finishing a note in the margin of a printed file, unhurried, The way people are when they've done something 10,000 times and no longer need to think about the mechanics of it. A framed photo sat angled on the corner of the desk. A girl, maybe 5 or 6, gap-toothed, mid-laugh, caught on a swing set. Then she set the pen down and looked up. Marcus's mouth opened before anything came out of it. Whatever he'd rehearsed in the lobby chair, some version of "thank you for having me, I really appreciate the opportunity," didn't survive the half-second it took him to recognize the face across the desk. 6 years older. Different last name on the door. Same steady eyes that used to watch him from across a kitchen table, back when he still had one she'd chosen with him. Dana Ferris looked at him the way she'd looked at the porch that Friday, 7 months pregnant, suitcase in hand, like she'd already decided how this was going to go, and nothing he said in the next few minutes was going to change it. "Have a seat, Marcus," she said. Her voice didn't shake, it didn't rise. It was the same voice she used, he'd learn a few minutes later, for every file that crossed her desk. Marcus sat. The chair was the same soft, too low kind from the lobby, and he had the sudden, useless thought that maybe that was on purpose. "Dana," it was all he managed. "It's Ferris now," she said, not unkindly, not kindly either. She opened the folder already sitting on her desk, his folder, he realized, the one he'd filled out at the library computer 3 weeks ago. "Let's go through this." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She turned the folder so he could see the first page, a printed summary with a column of numbers down the side, and tapped once near the middle of it. "Debt to income on this application comes in at 61%, she said. "Our cutoff for unsecured bridge financing is 45, even for established developers." "You're not close." Marcus started to explain the third property, how close they were to finishing it, how one more draw would carry them through to closing. Dana let him finish. She didn't interrupt. When he ran out of words, she turned to the second page. "This is a defaulted line of credit from 18 months ago, she said. "Co-signed, the other name on it is Renee Colby." She didn't look up when she said it. "Any debt co-signed with a business partner gets counted against both parties in our underwriting model. That's not a judgment call. That's the formula." He hadn't known she'd see that one. He hadn't thought about who might see it at all. He just filled out the boxes the form asked him to fill out, the way you do when you're 3 weeks from a bank calling a note and you're out of better options. Dana turned to the third page last. A single line, dated 2 years back, a lien filed against the second property, the one that sat on the market for 11 months, still unresolved. She let the page sit there a moment before she spoke again. "None of this is a surprise to whoever prepared your application," she said. "Which tells me either you didn't know your own numbers, or you were hoping the person reviewing them wouldn't check." Marcus said nothing. There wasn't anything to say that wouldn't have sounded worse coming out of his mouth than staying quiet. Dana closed the folder, squared its edges against the desk, and slid it back across to him. "The application is declined," she said. "Not because of anything between us. I want to be clear about that because I know what you're probably thinking right now. This isn't personal, it's the math. It was always going to be the math." She stood, which meant the meeting was over. "The numbers don't lie, Marcus. They never did." He left the way he'd come in, past the thicker carpet, past the open cubicles, past the assistant who wished him a good afternoon like nothing unusual had happened, because to her, nothing had. Outside, the visitor sticker was still on his shirt. He peeled it off in the elevator and didn't look at his reflection in the polished doors. Dana didn't watch him go. She had a 3:30 meeting and a 6-year-old to pick up from school by 5. She closed the file, initialed the decline, and moved it to the outbox, the same way she'd moved every other file that crossed her desk that week, carefully, completely, and without a single wasted feeling on any of them. By the time she pulled into the school pickup line, the whole morning had already folded itself into something small enough to fit in a Tuesday. Nora climbed into the back seat with a drawing she'd made in art class, and Dana asked her about it the whole drive home, and didn't think about Marcus again until she was writing this down. Would you have kept it that businesslike, or would some part of you have wanted him to know exactly how far he'd fallen? Now, let me ask you something. Would you have walked away like Dana, keeping it strictly business, or would some small part of you have wanted him to feel the sting of every single mistake? You know, life has a funny way of balancing the books. And sometimes, the sweetest payback isn't revenge. It's just letting the numbers speak for themselves. If you love stories where karma catches up, the truth comes out, and life settles the score, then make yourself at home right here at Casterly Payback. Go ahead and tap that subscribe button and tell me in the comments, what would you have done in Dana's shoes? I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care of yourselves.